words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be always pleasing to you, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Please be seated. Our faith father Abraham was a very old man. His wife Sarah, our faith mother, was equally old, and they could not have a child. All their hopes, all God's promises, the whole story hinged on a child to inherit, but none was given. Then, inexplicably, this yearned for, unexpected, desperately wanted baby is born. Not of normal human circumstances, but of the power and fidelity of God. This birth is an event defying explanation, resisting reason. Biblical faith is grounded in God's capacity to keep promises. In that moment, Israel comes to know everything that needs to be known about God and about the world and about us. We live in a world of surprises that outrun our capacity to control or predict or explain. The most eloquent, wondrous extrapolation of this miraculous baby is given by St. Paul in his letter to the Romans. In today's lyrical passage, Paul uses all the words we expect Paul to use: faith, promise, grace. Then Paul gets quite concrete in telling what it was like for this frail old man and this fruitless woman to notice their hopeless, wrinkled bodies that had no vitality, and to be amazed at their gift without reason. Paul utters one of the most remarkable assertions in the Bible. This God, in whom Israel believes, gives life to the dead and calls into existence the things that do not exist. This entire lyrical claim comes from one baby born to an old couple. In the unexpected birth of little Isaac, God has made outrageous promises of well-being for all time to come. Paul and the whole church are custodians of that outrageous promise. One voice says, "Can you imagine?" The other voice answers, "Yes, but." Abraham, old, almost cynical Abraham, was filled with, "Yes, but. Yes, but I am very old. Yes, but she is not pregnant. Can you imagine a new son born right then? Can you imagine a covenant kept to countless generations to come? Can you imagine land given to landless people? Not can you implement it, can you plan it, can you achieve it? Only can you entrust possibilities to God that go beyond your own capacity for control and fabrication. In our day today, yes, but is powerful and usually wins. Yes, but makes us sane, sober, prudent, competent. If you can imagine a baby born to such a failed family, can you imagine a world of valued old people? Yes, but consider the costs and the overwhelming statistics. Can you imagine a new world of food for all? Yes, but our standard of living resists such sharing. God brings into existence that which does not exist. The Bible never uses the word create with a human subject. We may make or form or fabricate, but only God creates. Only God works a genuine new possibility, a new thing beyond our expectations. It belongs to the mystery and holiness of God to call to be that which is not yet. Because this is God's world. The world is not closed, either by our hopes or by our fears. The people who formed our lectionary have done a hard thing to us. They have juxtaposed to these powerful texts a gospel in which Jesus says, "I must die, I must be crucified." Then Jesus, in the face of Peter's resistance, gives us a powerful, frightening invitation. "If anyone would follow me, let them take up their cross. Those who lose their life for my sake will save it." It is at best odd to speak about demanding discipleship in the context of such powerful promises as we have just considered. The Bible, however, has known about this juxtaposition all along. Abraham, our father in faith, is not the only one for whom God did staggering things. Abraham is also an invitation to believe and trust and risk and relinquish. He is the one who was fully convinced that God was able to do what God had promised. Abraham was, in an awesome moment of faith, prepared to receive God's newness that was against all probability, but which set his life utterly new. Faith is enacted by those who trust God, who imagines well beyond our resistant presuppositions. No one could have foreseen how long-term and how demanding was the birth of Isaac. And the God who birthed Isaac is no conventional God. This God intends us no conventional life. Today's gospel offers an obvious challenge and invitation to those who believe and live in a context of persecution, as the original audience of Mark may have. To those believers, Jesus' warning is literal. Following him will look like a cross, death. Jesus says, "Do not flee. Stand fast and embrace the suffering ahead. Take up your cross and follow me." What might these words mean for those of us who do not live in a context of persecution, where violent death is part and parcel of faithfulness? Will the meaning of discipleship change as our context changes, here and there, now and then? In his book, Falling Upward, A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life, Richard Rohr contends that for the first half of life, each of us is busy about the busyness of self-identity. We make a life and world. We craft an identity. We pour enormous time, energy, and resources into ourselves. There comes a time, however, of necessary suffering that causes us to realize how the life we have made for ourselves is insufficient and shallow. At that point, we can double back and try to replicate or save the life we have made, a futile exercise that leaves us exhausted and bitter. On the other hand, we can embrace the loss, take up the cross, let go of what is gone, and open our hands to receive the self God intended us to be from the beginning. Everyone suffers. Some will attempt to flee. Those who are willing to interpret their necessary suffering as the spiritual task of relinquishment, who are willing to lose their lives as they have made them for Jesus' sake, will receive a new and better life. The way through suffering is the way taken by any who would become a follower of Jesus. To take up a cross and follow Jesus is a daunting task. So is starting a nation and being a blessing to the world at age 99. It was through faith that Abraham achieved these things, and it is through faith that we achieve Jesus' command. Abraham trusted God to fulfill God's promise, which he didn't earn. This is the same calling for Christians, to trust God, to use us to fulfill God's promise, which we didn't earn. We are justified by faith, and in so doing, we are joining in Abraham's lineage of faith in Yahweh. We have 5 weeks of Lent till Easter. I invite you to take up your cross, the life God intends for you. Please use this next 5 weeks to spend time with Jesus in prayer, in reading the Bible, in listening for God's word for you. As an aid to help you, there are little crosses for you to take. Father Tom and Mother Elizabeth will bless them, and I invite you to pick one up as you return to your seats after communion. May God bless us with a holy Lent.